You're watching a Highwire Media podcast.
Best game of the season, scoring a season-high 15 runs. And that might not have even been the most encouraging part of Tuesday's obliteration of the A's. Talk about all that and more on this episode of the Talking Texas Rangers. So let's get into it. We are your weekly Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Highwire Media Network. Your team every week. I'm Larry Lease, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for the past couple of years, including as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Talking Texas Rangers your listen each and every week. If you're not already, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All the links are in the description. Now on today's show, you guessed it, we're talking about this offense being good. The first time I think I might have said that in this whole season, I should say. We're talking about Jacob DeGrom being fixed, and if this is finally the start of this team playing the way they should have been playing all season long. But before we get into all that, this episode is brought to you by Patriot Supply. Texas Ranger fans, you're used to the heat, the hustle, and the grit of game day. But when it comes to preparing for the unexpected, are you ready? Introducing Patriot Supply, your one-stop shop for all things emergency preparedness. Whether you're tailgating, hitting the trails, or gearing up for any Texas-sized surprise, they've got you covered with food, water, and gear that'll keep you in the game for a very long time. From freeze-dried meals to portable water filters, Patriot Supply has everything to help you stay strong, no matter what the season brings. So what are you waiting for? Be prepared, stay ready, and keep the spirit of Texas alive, whether it's on the field or off. Patriot Supply, because in Texas, you don't just play hard, you prepare harder. I may have been pretty mean to this team, probably the meanest since I've started this show. Okay, maybe not. After the Joey Gallo trade in the back half of 2021, where I was watching the most miserable, depressing Rangers baseball I've ever watched, let me tell you, I've seen some miserable, depressing Rangers baseball. I think that yesterday's show was about the meanest I've ever been to this team. Because I was disappointed, I was frustrated, because this team should have been hitting all along. It didn't make sense, and it was incredibly frustrating, because the pitching staff this year has been light years better. Light years better than expected. And yes, the team still did have a winning record. Maybe it was a bit melodramatic for me to do that at, 15 and 14, still just barely had a winning record after the Monday loss. But I thought, hey, this offense doesn't make sense, and I was really tired of basically, all of last year's shows and all the year's shows so far have been like, this offense should be better, but they're not. And I don't know what to make of that. And then they just kept on doing the same thing. But on last episode, I said maybe the offense just sucks. Maybe the offense is just bad. Maybe it's broken beyond repair. Every hit feels like an accident, and every run feels like a miracle. Well, this felt like the miracle of miracles, scoring 15 runs, nearly doubling their previous season high, which did almost come against the Athletics. They also had Corey Seager in the lineup then. In a lineup shakeup they had in the game, Kyle Higashioka, 3-hole hitter, Wyatt Langford leading off for the first time in his big league career. That looked nice, and it worked out well. Everything that this team did, nearly everything this team did. We'll talk about Dane Dunning at the end of this show because we're talking about the good stuff first. Nearly everything this team did looked like the offense that we were supposed to see. Now for me, the biggest thing that was wrong with this offense was the swing decisions. Especially during this skid where after that 8-run outburst where Corey Seager left the game with a hamstring issue against these Athletics in West Sacramento, Yolo County to be specific, last Monday you thought, okay, maybe this offense is going to be fixed. Maybe they're going to start doing things better. And then they averaged 2 runs per game in a 6-game stretch, scoring 3 or fewer runs every single time. And heck, it was 2 or fewer runs every time outside of one. They averaged 2 runs a game because one game they lost 4-3. That was the only time they scored those 3 runs. Every other game, it was 2 runs or 1 run. And granted, they were able to squeak out a 2-0 victory against San Francisco last Friday night. But losing 3 straight 1-run losses where the offense just couldn't do anything, and the pitching staff was mostly brilliant, was incredibly frustrating. But everything that this team hadn't done all season long, putting together quality at-bats, working counts. Specifically, I said in a previous episode, hey, sometime in the next 10 games, I want this Rangers offense to get the starting pitcher out before the 5th inning. Well, mission accomplished. And you know that by working a full count to each of the first 5 hitters that Jacob Lopez faced in this one, he got out after 2 2/3 innings. It took one whole game. The Rangers worked 10% of their, I believe it was nearly 12% of their walks on the entire season last night with 8. That was from Sean Bass of the Ticket. Walks matter. This team did not walk barely at all so far this season because, well, some of their best hitters are not necessarily the most passive. Jake Berger, not a guy who walks a whole lot. Corey Seager will work and averages sometimes less than average share of walks. He's pretty aggressive. Same with Marcus Semien. Not necessarily a big walk guy. Wyatt Langford will walk more than his fair share of walks, but the rest of the offense, Adolis García, not necessarily going to work a whole lot of walks. Josh Young, so far in his big league career, hasn't worked necessarily a whole lot of walks. And so, many walks in this one and such a high pitch count. After the first inning, he thought, okay, well, maybe this is the same thing all over again. The Rangers, with the bases loaded, they just can't do anything with the bases loaded, and they can't do anything with 2 outs. And in this game, they also can't do anything while behind in counts. It felt like they were being too passive on bad pitches. Mistake pitches that were being thrown down the plate, and swinging at pitches outside the zone. And they weren't working counts. They weren't fouling off balls. And in this game, they did. They did all of that. And not only that, but having a 2-out rally in the 3rd inning, adding on another run in that 3rd inning, not doing anything until there were 2 outs, that was encouraging. That bit of 2-strike hitting from Jake Berger, going down 0-2 and then taking his slider away from him and poking it into right field for an RBI single, that was the kind of thing that this Rangers offense didn't do. And you'll notice they did score 15 runs. They had 18 hits, 9 walks. Maybe it was more than 12%. Maybe Sean Bass didn't do the math correctly. Or maybe I think it was actually during the game. They worked one more after that. This team was 10 for 22 with runners in scoring position, and they left 10 on base. It could have been worse. It could have been worse for the A's pitching staff. That is mediocre. This is a mediocre pitching staff. And this is an offense that should be taking advantage of a mediocre pitching staff. And they did. They worked counts. They trusted the next guy in the lineup to do his job if they couldn't. They were not just up there with no plan of attack. I mean, just time and time again, these Rangers hitters, all the way up and down this lineup, everybody who started in this game ended up with a hit. Even Kyle Higashioka. It took a 3-hole hitter, Kyle Higashioka, until the 8th inning, where he poured on the final 3 runs in this 15-2 beatdown at this point, with another bases-loaded, bases-clearing double. 3 of them on the night for the Rangers, which routinely I feel like they've had countless opportunities in the last, week or so. They've had base runners, but they've had so many different opportunities with the bases loaded and 2 outs where they've just done absolutely nothing with it the last couple of weeks. Actually, really the whole season. And this time, they cleared the bases 3 times. They did it twice in 1 inning. In that 8-run inning, the 8th run with Jacob DeGrom cruising. We'll talk about that in the next segment. And Jacob DeGrom looking like the version of DeGrom that the Rangers paid a whole bunch of money for, that fills me with absolute glee every time I see them. That 8-run inning, that was their season high in runs. They had not scored more than 8 runs in a game. They only did that once, and that was the last Monday. Before that, it was 6 runs was their season high. And, in this offense, what made it so good in 2023 was that they'd have routinely huge innings like this, where they just pile on and on and on. And it felt like the opposing pitchers were suffocating. They couldn't get a breath. They couldn't take a pitch off because everybody in this lineup was stepping up. Not everybody was hot at the same time at really any point last year, but enough guys were hot. Enough guys were doing the job. And you look at the bottom of the lineup in this one. Heck, a 3 RBI day for Adolis García. He reached base 3 times. He had a walk, a rare thing for Adolis García, and 2 hits, including a 3-run double that cleared the bases. I thought he got all of it, and that it was going to be a grand slam. Unfortunately, it wasn't it. A great bit of hitting from Jake Berger, who reached base 4 times, and Leody Taveras, who also reached base 4 times. He had 3 hits against a lefty, something Leody Taveras has not done. And after Adolis' little bit bonehead base running mistake in that second inning, I think it was the first inning. No, it was the second inning because Leody Taveras reached base. It would have been bases loaded with no outs. and Adolis hesitated for just a second, trying to come around third. If he hadn't hesitated on that bunt throw that pulled the first baseman off the bag, maybe Adolis would have scored. I don't know. I would have rather him just kind of sat there and let Wyatt Langford, the one hitter who is hot at this point, the one hitter who's been consistently fantastic all season long, let him get a chance with the bases loaded and no outs. But they did it without a home run, without going for that 10-run homer. The closest they got to a homer, they dropped 15 runs without a single homer. And the closest they got was the first batter of the game in Wyatt Langford, where he was about maybe a foot, maybe 6 inches away from hitting the foul pole with a leadoff homer. But instead, he works a walk. And the Rangers work 3 walks. And they do everything that they haven't done. Hitting with 2 strikes, hitting with 2 outs, starting rallies, continuing rallies, everything that they had not done all season long that you thought eventually they would do. They did it all in this one game. And while the offense freaking out was long overdue, incredibly great sign, incredibly encouraging, that was not the most encouraging thing for me in this start. It was the absolute unbridled dominance of Jacob DeGrom, looking like, once again, the best pitcher in the planet. Well, I'll tell you exactly how he dominated. I think this is the start of Jacob DeGrom looking like the best version of himself yet again for the Rangers. All that and more right after this.
Whether it's opening day, a rivalry showdown, or another October run, fingers crossed, you need the best seats for the best price, and that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time is the fastest, easiest way to score last-minute tickets to Rangers games. No stress, no sketchy resellers, just killer deals on seats you actually want. And the best part? They show you exactly what your view looks like before you buy. No surprises. Just baseball the way it should be, live and loud at Globe Life Field. Say goodbye to ridiculous fees and hello to Game Time's best price guarantee. If you find a cheaper ticket somewhere else, they'll credit you the difference. That's how confident they are that you're getting the best deal. Don't wait, use the link in the description and go get your ticket to the next Rangers game. And get ready to be there when the magic happens. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed, and that's Game Time. And now back to our episode.
You know who else I'm happy to have as part of my team? Well, that's Jacob freaking DeGrom. From the first start, from every one of those 6 starts that he made in 2023, the Rangers won all 6 of those games. And heck, that was the last time that Jacob DeGrom got a big league win. In 2023, for Tommy John surgery number 2. And when he was there, he wasn't looking like he was the best pitcher on earth. When he's on the mound, well, he's been on the mound so far this season, and he's been just fine. Unfortunately, just fine. Which, for most pitchers, that's fine. Being fine is fine. Obviously, nothing groundbreaking there. But he didn't look dominant. He looked mortal at times. He'd had a couple of good starts in a row. Against the Dodgers. Outside of that, a home run to Tommy Edman. He looked really darn good. 7 innings there, just the 1 run, 1 walk, 3 hits, 7 strikeouts. And then the last game against the Athletics, he only allowed a couple of runs, and those only scored because Wyatt Langford lost a ball in the Little League Stadium Lights. And that ended up being responsible for those 2 runs scoring. Otherwise, I don't think that Jacob DeGrom would have allowed a single earned run. And in this one, he didn't walk anybody in that one. That's more like the Jacob DeGrom that we know. This was a Jacob DeGrom start. This was everything. Everything that we have grown to know and love about Jacob DeGrom. This is the reason why he's so darn special, and why it was so confusing what he was doing earlier on in the season. For me, it comes down to his 4-seam fastball. Now, he had taken that down just a couple of ticks. Instead of averaging it around 99 or 100 miles an hour, it's been down a little bit this year. Or on purpose, he's averaging 96.7 miles an hour. Last year, he was up to 97.3, and the year before that, he was averaging nearly 99. Basically, he's down 2 miles an hour on purpose. So that, for the long-term health of his arm, he can stay on the mound. He can keep making those starts. Heck, this is his 7th start of the season. It's been projected somewhere around 20 to 25 starts in the regular season, and he's already made 7. He hasn't missed a single start. This came 5 days after his last start, and he's been about that pace, 5-6 days per start. This was like normal rest in this one, and he had his best start of the season, and he was incredible. He was absolutely sensational. He was commanding the fastball, and that 4-seam fastball, that has been the key for him. It has been one of the best pitches in baseball. And this year, even though it's down a few ticks, you look at the extra peripheral numbers around it, you look at the spin rate, the extension, release point, and things like that, it all looks similar to when he was at his best. But the results weren't the same. Hitters were seeing it. They were making contact with it. They were not just making contact, they were making loud, hard contact. They were seeing it well, which was not something that you could ever say about DeGrom's fastball. He dominated with that fastball in the low or mid 90s. He even dominated with it in the low 90s at points. But when he was at his best, when he won back-to-back Cy Youngs in 2018 and 19, he was sitting 95, 96, as opposed to 98, 99. Now he was absolutely untouchable, unbelievable in 2021, where he was averaging about 100 miles an hour with that fastball, but he couldn't stay healthy. So he thought, okay, what if I dial it back a little bit, and rein in that command? But the swing and miss rate on that four-seam fastball before this start was the 7th worst in all of baseball among starters. 7th worst in all of baseball. Just 18.3% whiff rate on that four-seam fastball. That's not DeGrom. The only players worse than him, Roki Sasaki, 8.9. He's taken some ticks off his fastball, and he's also worked on keeping himself healthier, not having any arm issues like he had the last couple of seasons. You think that's been a reason for the decline. Then you have Antonio of the Rockies, not necessarily that great of a pitcher. Bowden Francis, that was more than 5% better than DeGrom. And Bowden is averaging 88, 89, 90 as a right-hander with his four-seam fastball. And he's getting lower. Actually, no, that's worse. Never mind. Scrap that. But basically, all the numbers around it didn't make sense. But Jacob DeGrom had talked about his mechanics. But that was another one of the things that made Jacob DeGrom great. Not only could he place the fastball exactly where he wanted it, not only was the stuff incredible, but the command of it had been, when he's at his best, incredible. And it really hadn't been that quite yet this year. You really hadn't seen him be untouchable. And there's a difference between control and command. It's easy to get those two confused. But the way that I sort it out is control. Think of control as you're driving your car in the rain. You have control over your car if you're not going to drive into a ditch. It's not like you have everything going perfectly, but you're doing enough. And with pitchers, control is just throwing strikes. It's staying in the zone, not necessarily quality strikes. It's just making sure you aren't walking the entire world. Now, command is throwing quality strikes. It's throwing your strike exactly where you want. Think of an F1 driver. They have more than just control of their car. They have precise command. It does exactly what they want for the most part, every single time. If they're one of the best drivers, and they have good cars. But DeGrom has had the best stuff and the best command of it. And so far this season, he hadn't had that. And in this one, he did. It was not only fantastic. 6 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts. He also did it on just 65 pitches. And granted, the reason he was pulled after 65 pitches was because this offense just opened up a can of whoop-ass. They dropped an 8 spot in the bottom of that 6th inning, and Jacob DeGrom was sitting for a while. You thought, okay, this is the best of both worlds. You get an elite Jacob DeGrom start. He doesn't have to throw that many pitchers. He's economical. He gets that first win since 2023, lowers his season ERA below 3. I think from this point on, we'll start to see more of the Jacob DeGrom of old. This was something that he fixed with his command, with his control. He said that he was flying open a bit too much at the end. So hitters were seeing his fastball more. They were getting a better look at it. He wasn't able to get it down in the zone. He was able to get it exactly where he wanted to, as frequently. And in this start, he did. There are too many good hitters on this team. I've said this on basically every episode. This team is not just a bunch of guys who randomly showed up in the big leagues and let's find out if they're good. No, these are guys with a track record of being exceptional. Good to exceptional big league hitters, and they had been, for the most part, terrible. I mean, they had not been hitting well as a team. And whatever they did in the hitters meeting, whatever was going on there, do it again. It's going to be a little bit tougher of an assignment going against pitchers like Luis Severino, best pitcher on the A's. Well, so far this season. Mason Miller is not starting, but he's been really damn good. And also do better than the White Sox did against them. Against the White Sox, he went 6 innings, 3 runs, 2 walks, 6 hits. Do better than that. Do better than the White Sox offense. Every single day you should be doing better than the White Sox offense, no matter who you are. unless you're the Rockies or the Marlins. But honestly, every single day, just do better. I think just an offensive outburst like this, everyone getting in on the lineup, everybody reaching base, and Leote especially reaching the base 4 times, that's got to be a big, big boost for his confidence in this one. And you know what else would be a big boost for this Rangers team confidence? I mean, hold on, there was a point that I meant to make that was about to be a brilliant lead-in, if not for my craziness. But the Rangers offense, to give you a perspective of how much that one game impacted their team's offense, before Tuesday's game, the Rangers had an OPS plus as a team of 89, which means they were 11% worse than the league average. OPS plus of 100 is league average. After one game, it jumped up 5 points. That was the 30th game of the season, and it jumped up 5% with just one game. The Rangers' expected win-loss record was several games below what it had been because, they hadn't really won a blowout game. This was the first blowout win of the season for the Rangers. I mean, the closest they had gotten was a couple of 4-run wins. They had a 4-run win against the White Sox 6-2. They had a 4-0 win against the Angels a couple weeks ago. But those are the only 2 wins of more than 3 runs before last night. And the Rangers offense, I think just having a day like that, remember, okay, we're actually a very good offense. We're a good team. We can just do better. I think that kind of permeated throughout the team and throughout the fan base. Alejandro Osuna had a fantastic day with the Rough Riders, his second home run of the season in a triple. That guy is going to be in AAA before long, and he might be a part of this big league roster by the end of the season. That is a guy who managers love, and I think might just be an everyday starter in the big leagues. Not quite sure. Need to see him a few more times to figure that out. But I saw Chris Young at the Rough Riders game, leaving the game as I was leaving the game. I wanted to run over and say, hey, Chris Young, tell the offense to hit good. I didn't do that. But if I did, I would absolutely have taken credit for that 15-run outburst. Despite the Rangers offense not hitting for the full season like it had, the pitching staff has been incredible. I mean, this team has an ERA plus of 123, which means the pitchers have been 23% better than the average. The pitching has been incredible, and the offense, all you had to do was be average, and this team would be incredible. I mean, they still have a winning record, despite the offense, for the most part, not doing things. And this pitching staff has already been great, with 3 starting pitchers on the IL, and it's only getting better. I mean, John Gray underwent an X-ray, and if he's cleared, then he'll start a throwing program. Cody Bradford threw from 90 feet. He got up to 90 miles an hour. He could throw off a mound in 3 weeks, which is a great, great sign. And Kumar Rocker was recently throwing. Josh Boers is looking much, much better. He's been throwing. He got all the way up to 83 miles an hour, and he continues to build back up. He'll throw a bullpen in a couple of weeks, and it could be a really good sign of figuring out exactly where he is. It seems like his timeline for return is August 1st in a worst-case scenario. So that's nice to see after a couple of shoulder surgeries. Getting Josh Boers and adding him to this bullpen would be a great, great sign. And then Kumar Rocker, who's on the IL with a shoulder impingement, he threw on the field pregame. He was placed on the 15-day IL on Thursday and eligible to return on May 8th. Hopefully that is when Kumar Rocker comes back. And we could see maybe he takes a little bit of a longer return to just, throw in the minor leagues a little bit, get more comfortable with that curveball, with that sinker, with the changeup, with the pitches that aren't the slider or the four-seam fastball. Just kind of figure things out a little bit. While Patrick Corbin has been really damn good. And this Rangers rotation, as is, could just stay as is. To think they're doing this without Gray, without Bradford, without any of these guys who are on the shelf, this is a great sign for this Texas team. And without Dane Dunning, who had been a big part of this Rangers team for the last couple of years, it was a really frustrating way to start his first game coming in. Called back up after a couple of mechanical changes that the Rangers saw in his mechanics. He looked better in his last couple of AAA starts. The results haven't been necessarily great, but the Rangers saw something. They thought, okay, let's send Caleb Bushley back down. But it was really frustrating to come into a game where you're up 12-0 and walk the leadoff batter. Incredibly frustrating. And then allowing a home run too, of course. This is just, I believe, his 3rd big league season. He's barely played over 2 seasons of big league baseball. And he's already got 11 career home runs against the Rangers. But he buckled down after that, getting 3 strikeouts and 3 innings of work. And yes, he did get a save. If you pitch the final 3 innings of any game and a win, no matter what the score, you get credited with a save. It's one of those weird save rules. So yeah, it's very weird to see someone get a save in a game where the Rangers won 15-2, but that's the only way to do it. Giving these high leverage guys a day off, getting a win, boy, the Rangers didn't have to even warm up any other leverage guys. And that is a hugely great sign. So with that, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TTRangers. That's buymeacoffee.com/TTRangers. And of course, give us the thumbs up if you like a video. Hit that subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos. And with that, thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And we will see you next time. Go Rangers.